Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Living Enviado podcast. So I am right back here in the Middle East, technically where the podcast started, you could say, with our first interview, our interviewee, Shadi. If you haven't seen that episode, go back to number one. Well, technically number one was, what was that? That was the introductory episode, but that was just me talking for like 10 minutes. So our first real episode, technically, I guess episode number two is with Shadi. So I'm back here with him. And I thought we would do a quick update on what is happening in Syria. And we're not in Syria. Apologize for any background noise because I don't have my normal microphones. I don't have my normal setup, but we're making this work as best as we can. So anyways, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for hosting me again.
I should have probably re-listened to the first one just to kind of refresh my memory of what we spoke about because we talked about several things. But I know we talked about your testimony. We're not going to get into that again. So go to the first episode, listen to his testimony, listen to why he's here because it's actually quite fascinating how you go from hating a place to loving a place, how God changed your heart. But you got to watch the other episode to see all that. And I know your reality here is very much in flux. It's like the people who are traveling with me, I was mentioning to them last night as we were having dinner that when they think of, when Americans, when we think of hardships, we think of first world problems. I don't want to downplay first world hardship, but when you put it in light to what other people are facing, and I was mentioning to him, I said, just imagine yourself in a place. To some degree, you're here because of circumstances, the civil war that happened. You're still not back in Syria because of the environment that has taken over since Assad was ousted. And then you're in an environment where I guess the majority of the people don't necessarily want you here.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mostly cordial. There's some friendly ones.
Yes.
But by and large, there's always an intentional effort to see people like you out. And going back home is not a great option. And trying to get somewhere else is very, very difficult. Lots of hoops. I mean, you're jumping through hoops right now to try to get somewhere.
Speaking about the hardship, it's one thing that is clearly that different from one area to another. So the hardship that people face in the United States might be not hardship; it might be normal for us, and the vice versa. For example, like the people who's financially facing hardship in financial ways, that might not be an issue in the United States, but in a different way, like conservative community and liberal community. That's what the West is facing now, and the church, but it's not might be the issue in this side of the world. So it could be different. It could be different.
So when I was talking with them about all that, I was trying to help them put themselves in your position, even though I know they can't. And I know even as an American, it's hard to think about what life would be like when you're in an environment that even what I described earlier, it's this unknown of where am I going to be year for year. So when I was talking with them, I was trying to help them think, like put themselves in your position or in your pastor's position. You're not just here as a single person. You have a wife. He has a wife and 2 kids. And then you have other leaders in the church you're a part of that have 3 kids or something like that. And it's just not you here by yourself. And there's no unknown future because going back is not a great option, but it's also not a great option because your own mother is telling you don't come back, right?
Well, yeah, both of them, they said it's still not, unpredictable situation now in Syria. Like everything for a week is calm, and one day, just like they start fighting each other. So it's still unpredictable. We don't know what is going on so far. The on things on the media is not just represent what is reality is. The reality is totally different from all the media stuff, and many minorities in Syria, and about ethnic groups, they don't be able yet to come along and live together again like 20 years ago.
It's very segregated.
It is, and every groups, they want to defend themselves and not just be open to other to other groups. So it's still on, the government cannot control over all Syria, so there's still some people they don't submit to the government, they against it. So it's still not the war hasn't finished yet. It's not stable so far.
It's not unified
Mm.
as a country. It's very fragmented. And that's why it's, I can see that your mother would not want you to come back yet.
Mm.
I know she wants to see you. I mean,
Yes.
any mother does. But I've met your mom on Zoom,
Mm.
and I know she doesn't want you back yet. She'd rather have you safe here. But even some of the I mean, I know your church deals with families wrestling with, should they go back?
Yeah.
Should they stay here in this kind of middleman country, or should they go to Europe? And then there's families whose, one spouse is in Europe and the others are in essence stuck here. You were talking about one family and they've been apart for a couple of years, the husband and wife.
Yeah, many, like two, three families so far we have at the church that the husbands just went, they and paid a lot of money just to get to Europe. And once the regime fell, the European system like of reunion people, they stopped everything. It's been hard for them, like for mother and with the kids, to stay alone here, and even they still did not have has the chance to get jobs, send him some aids or money or whatever. But it's been more difficult for them, like taking care of kids. Some of the kids start acting like rebellions against their parents. I'm one who's bringing money, so it's devastating the family, the situation that they are in. It is hard. It's not. We're trying as much as we can to help them, stand with them, but it's still difficult. That once the family divided, it's becoming more difficult for them, especially for mothers.
I find that your church is very unique. I mean, I'm trying to help people kind of grasp what your church is like because, back home where, most people are working and they have homes and life is relatively good.
Mm.
Even those who are struggling financially, they're not worried about, am I going to get kicked out of the country? Am I going to be forced back to a more dangerous situation? Sure, they may be stressed out, have some stresses financially, and just trying to figure out how to make it month to month, things like that. But your church you've got a leadership team who's struggling with the same things. One of our conversations here was, well, the pastor might not be here, and then one of your leaders from Egypt might not be here, and you've already had one girl from Egypt leave, and then there's all kinds of, for different reasons. It's not what we would call a stable church. It's stable in a way where it's been here for several years, and it's definitely doing a lot. You don't have a building. Something happened that caused that to kind of have to.
Yeah,
You were forced out of it, in a manner of speaking.
we're still struggling with that. It's like we're trying to seek other churches to have place take a place from them. But as we said, we have a good problem that we are a big number.
It is a big church.
Yes, and the most church, like the big church that we used to take part, the government also closed it, so we don't know. And then, but the other churches is like smaller churches, so it's like kind of been difficult for us, especially with all the places getting high prices. So it's very difficult and hard to find a good place to rent at least, or just find a church that can be partner, then and have a place from them. Yeah, we're still seeking, and we trust in God. He will guide us and lead us in that.
You're still meeting.
We're still meeting on Zoom.
Yeah, I got to be here during that,
Yeah.
you could say, telecast of. It was actually pretty interesting to watch. You have a good setup, and just watching the kind of the camera and the lighting system, and just watching you lead worship, but you were focused on the camera, and then your pastor focused on the camera, and of course you had all this stuff behind the camera going on, and I was afraid to get up because I was like, I'm going to disrupt it, but everybody was kind of moving
Yeah.
around. And it's just, you guys are just used to that.
Yeah. Still, we don't like it because it's nothing like, when the body of Christ, gathering together, praying and hearing each other, praying for each other. It's totally different. I mean, that's what Christ meant to be, is the body gathering together. But since that what we're facing, at least we're trying to do something that might help people. People are still watching from us, communicate through live chat during the service, but still, it's nothing like when the whole body of Christ, gathering together. It's that's different.
You know, one thing I've noticed, so when I lived in China, something I noticed about the Chinese church, when a problem came up, they figured out how to just work around the problem. They never complained about it.
Mhm.
They didn't cry about it. I feel like in the States, we kind of do that a lot when a problem comes up. Eventually, we've resolved, how to resolve the problem, but we go through this, why is this happening bit.
Yeah.
But in China, I never really heard that. It
Mm.
was always, okay, this is just a new problem. Now there has to be a new solution. And I feel like with you guys, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
Okay, yes, it's not ideal, but it's reality. It's what we have to face. So instead of sitting in the corner crying about it, let's just figure out how to solve it for the time
Mm.
being until we can resolve the bigger problem
Mm.
of y'all meet once a month.
We did, but that's stopped for 2 months
Okay.
so far because the main thing, the main problem that it's hard to find a place.
Yeah, and rent here has gotten so expensive
It is. It
in
is.
the last couple of years. It's one thing to have the stresses of the finances of how do we find a place to meet. It's completely different when you have that plus anyone in the church, leadership included, could be kicked out, totally whatever,
Mm.
at any moment. They could be forced back.
Mm.
You've had people forced back. But then you have obviously people who are trying to get other countries and continents. It's a lot of stress just trying to survive, and that's why I say it's a unique church because there isn't a norm. I mean, there is somewhat of a norm, but it's not like a norm. Norm is just, okay, we're all here. None of us are going anywhere. And we just have daily life pressures
Yeah.
like everyone does. This is daily life pressures multiplied times 100 because your daily life is not really even the big issue.
Mm.
It is, do I get to stay?
And it's like people here for more than 15 years they've been under situation of temporary. Like I got this place, I got my house, I got my job, and all this stuff, and yeah, I'm done. No, it's not like that here. It's like you got your house to live now. Tomorrow you might be kicked out, that one, or just say, yo, we're done. Or he raising up the rent, and you can't afford that, so you have to change your house. So it's always like been for I don't know, more than, I said, like 15 years. It's just temporary. Everything is temporary. There is nothing guaranteed. There is nothing you have it, and that's it. You've done. Even the church that we had. So for some reasons that we have to leave that place.
And yet your church keeps moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It it doesn't dissolve, it doesn't give up.
Mm.
It just keeps pressing forward and dealing with whatever comes its way, and whatever happens. And you guys are trusting God to take care of, if a leader had to leave for any reason, that there's going to be something there to keep it moving forward.
Mm.
And I know there's always disruptions. We saw that in China and when things happen, but when you're looking to Christ, it gets resolved. It's not like he's thinking, "Oh, well, if the leaders are gone, that's it for me."
Mm.
I think God is has a bit more power than
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
and a bit more concern for the church here than even we do.
Mm. And eventually it's like it's not the pastor church or my church. It is Christ church. So he's who's the one the main responsible on it. So honestly, like I can say all whenever that we faced and we're facing, God has been so faithful, more than we thought, more than we imagined, for the church. And he's been sending like people to stand with us and help us, and in many different ways, people like you, just to you know um, um, be shoulder to shoulder, to stand together and help each other during this hardship and difficult situations. So it's been a privilege to see that and to testify that brothers and sisters from all over the world, praying for you and standing with you. that's the kingdom, that's what Christ has done for us, to brought many people from all over the world. And when you see that, all the difficult situations has become all right. God is with us. He is Emmanuel. So we have nothing to be, or we still have concerns, but we have nothing to be afraid of because He is with us. And that's what we made the church still continuing in to reach out to the lost and spread the gospel, and that's been a huge blessing to us.
So let's just get into Syria because I just want to just highlight that a little bit. It's not much in the news anymore. You know, it was in the news when Assad was overthrown and the new guy came up. And the things we do see in the news is more of the president, I guess the interim president. I don't know if he's interim or permanent yet, but the current president of Syria, just how he travels around and tries to make himself look diplomatic and a statesman, but in reality, he's definitely got a sketchy background. You know, he was part of I believe, an ISIS affiliate group, and so he does have terrorist connections in the past, and so that's why there's a lot of questions on whether Christians or even minorities, really not just Christians. You know, there's more than just Christians that are minorities and that are not Muslim, and they all feel threat, or they all feel the kind of the uneasiness, the uncertainty of what life is going to be like. And then you have people going back. You have refugees from Jordan, refugees from where you're at, heading back into the country and back into Syria, hoping that they'll find a better life. But is it?
I don't know, 9 months or something, many people actually went back to Syria and from all over, like Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan. Well, some of them they like it and they said, yeah, they hope for the better. But many of them, as I watching and hear from them, they said they regret they went back. It's been for them more difficult than in different countries. They were like the difficulties that we're facing. It's still unpredictable. No jobs to find, no security, or insecurity, and still people has many concerns now to about the situation in Syria. So many of them, as I like people that I know, they said, please don't do that what we did. Don't go back to Syria. So
I mean, does it feel like it can serve the people of the country, or is there hesitation on their part?
well, that depends on the church, but in general, they do help the community. They do some things like aiding people, but a lots of them they still, as you said, hesitating. Like, yeah, we have to wait a little bit until what is going on here to clarify that, and then we take some actions. But so far, that many of them, like, yeah, they're trying to do what they did the last 15 years. But many of them, there's like, okay, hold on to anything, stop everything until we know what is going on. That's make a little bit the situation more challenging to people. Even now, like people in Syria, they need something. They need a hope, and that's what made Syrian people still, willing. Like, yeah, the regime fell, and yeah, we have now new government. We hope for the better, and they did for the 15 years. It's just getting worse, I think, and people, like, once the regime fell, like the people in the east and then the south, they've been, they've been killed, many of them, and they said, no, we have to hold on. Maybe this will change. That's something that the government has nothing to do with it. They might be, I don't know, I'm not sure, but they might have an issue with them. But still, if the big word for Syria to me now is like unpredictable situation.
Are there people still trying to flee Syria?
Yeah, some of them they still want to.
So it's still bad enough where people want to flee, even
Yeah.
though the civil war technically has ended. It's kind of maybe a new,
Yeah.
a new potential civil war.
Month ago, I met my friend from Syria. He came for a visit, and I asked him, like, what is people now thinking of the new situation. They said people stay in Syria because they don't have a chance to flee. If they had, they would do it. As I said, like, it's hard to find a job, especially when you have a family. It's hard, like the electricity and the water and all the basic stuff, it's becoming like challenging, more difficult.
So the people who go back, why do they even consider going back?
So because at the beginning they thought it will change for the better, and they've been, facing hardship here, and they said, okay, we have a house there, at least we won't pay rent, and some of them like have their parents to take care of. Each one of them has different reasons, but all of them they hope for the better situation, which so far didn't happen.
Does your wife want to go back?
She wants to see her parents, but her parents in Europe. She's desperately to see them, wants to see them. But if we have a chance to meet them, I don't think she would have a problem, but I do. So
Well, if you make it to Europe, I'll be there.
yes,
I'll come visit you.
I can't wait to meet you there. But it's
And considering where her parents are at, my wife would love to come visit you there
yes, and we will learn from her a lot.
because she can help you with the language.
Yes, we're still looking like where God is leading us the next time, the next chapter of our lives. But and until that happen, we're praying that we'll keep doing what we're doing here.
And I want to highlight that because I noticed that with you. I noticed that with your pastor, with others. Despite everything that is going on, despite the potential of stuff that could happen to you, a lot of people, as you know, and as you've met, they come to where you're at, and it's like a kind of a it's like a transition hub. Come here and oh, there's the doorbell, and then they go off to somewhere else. But the attitude of you, the other leaders in the church, is we want to go where God wants us,
Yes.
whatever that means. Of course, you want to see family, but it's more important that you want to see what God wants. Whatever that, whether it's going back to Syria, even going back to Syria, if that's what he wants. You all have the attitude of, okay, that's fine, which I think is important. I think that's an important attitude because if we're going to live an Enviado life, then we have to have that mindset of it doesn't matter where God puts us because he does put us in danger. Because I've done a video on danger before. Does God, and the big question in the video was, does God call families with small children into dangerous countries? Of course, the answer is yes. And I did that video on purpose because in America, we have a hard time with that concept. Within a few days of posting that video on this channel, before I started the podcast, I got a message from a missionary family in Iraq. And the guy was telling me, thank you for posting that video.
Wow.
He had been there, an American family with small kids. He had been there for 12 years. And he was struggling with whether it was time to get his family out. Now, he was out temporarily because of something that was going on, but he was thanking me for it because it helped him to realize that God had called them there and he didn't need to waver from it, even with his children. 2 weeks later, he was assassinated in front of his family. It was kind of surreal to get that message and then 2 weeks later hear the report. I've never met the guy. I have friends who have met him, but I've never met him. And it goes back to the reality is, in the US, and I know in other places too, but definitely in the US, it's more popular that, well, the safest place to be is in the center of God's will. And my question is, okay, chapter and verse, please, in the Bible. Where does it say that? I'll agree that the best place to be is in the center of God's will, but the safest place, there's no such thing.
Yes.
Jesus wasn't in the safest place and he was crucified. Peter was crucified upside down.
Yes.
Paul was killed. I mean, all the disciples, early apostles were killed minus one who was exiled. And so if it's the safest place, then why did that happen to them? And so it's most Christians will never experience that. And I don't think Christians should be looking for it.
No.
Although I do know some people. I have met some people.
Yeah.
I think I've told you about that.
Yeah.
Where, and I won't say what country they're from. They're definitely not Americans.
They're looking for that.
They were. It was their dream to be martyred, like massacred for the gospel. And I'm like, yeah, if it happens, it happens, but I'm not looking for it. But we still have to have the mindset of, God, where do you want us? Irregardless of what that reality is. And that's hard. I understand.
It's to be in God's will, that's one thing. But to be the safest safest place is in God's will, that's another thing. God's will, if he wants us to be in dangerous places, that will be the best for us.
Mm.
But if it's not, it's for our mindset and for what we're thinking, it's not. But it's like, since the early church, like people were sacrifices, give sacrifices just to spread the word and be in missions for God, and that's like people, the one who we mentioned in Iraq, why he did that, why he kept his family in a dangerous place. I mean, if because God has called him first, and that's what we have to do. Like just answering God's calling, being that, live that, and I think we don't, as you taught, we don't want to looking for persecution. We don't want that, because we have to keep our lives until that we can spread the gospel to many. But if it happens, let it be. We're in God's kingdom, which is against the world system, and that's a war between both sides. I do not expect when I went to any place and spread the gospel, people would just clap for me and say, "Yeah, well, you're most welcome," because that's against the world system. That's how we thinking, how we raised up.
Mm.
I don't expect that, but what we should expecting persecution.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening or watching. As you heard from my friend Shadi, just the uniqueness of their church, the situation going on in Syria, because we don't often hear very much about what's going on in Syria anymore, but there's stuff happening. And we need to be praying for them. We need to be praying for Shadi and his church and the people that he interacts with on a day-to-day basis, as well as Christians back in Syria. So if you want to live sent, if you want to learn how to live Enviado, that is a great place to begin, which is prayer. Praying for fellow brothers and sisters across the pond, across the world, in the country next door, or even in your local community who are facing trouble because they are believers. And like I said in this episode, if you haven't gone back to episode number 1, or technically episode number 2, but episode number 1, I'll just call it that, where it's my first interview. It is with Shadi. And if you haven't gone and listened to that, I encourage you to do so, because there's a lot more context that is shared in that episode that's going to help this episode make more sense. And while you do that, I would encourage you, do something that is free, that helps us out a lot, and that is to like our video, subscribe to on whatever platform you're on, comment, and then share it with your friends. So until next time, just remember this, like Shadi is doing, like his church is doing, get out there, live bold, live courageous, and of course, live Enviado.